freezer. Mics are open.
That's some good Ozarka water.
We need some Christmas lights, man.
What's that?
Walk over to that CVS and we get some Christmas lights.
Yeah, and a menorah. What if we did? What if we were just really unapologetic about having a menorah on the set? Listen, man.
No comment.
Listen, man.
No comment.
Many of my friends are the chosen people. Okay, they're members of the tribe.
No comment. No comment. Now, admittedly, we're biased.
Uh-huh.
If you're Georgia, Kirby Smart, Tom Herman.
Kirby Smart.
What?
Yeah. He's better recruiting inroads in that part of the country.
So?
Kirby Smart. Kirby Smart's a freaking genius. And I
Is
love
he?
Tom Herman. Yeah.
Is he?
Yeah.
Do we really know that about Kirby Smart?
Yes.
I don't know that we know that.
The evidence suggests that he is. Ooh, those ice sphere molds, only $7 today.
I see that. Your Kinja deal just popped up too?
Popped up too.
Yeah.
I love mine. Mine are great.
Oh, you have those?
I have, yeah.
Oh,
two of them.
okay.
They are totally worth it. I really
Sure.
like it.
Why not? Can you send me Mr.
Oh.
Buckley's phone number? I have Ben.
Okay.
Unless he has a different number he wants, but if it's the same as last time, then we're good.
What'd he say? Yeah, he didn't give me a phone number, so. But
Well, I've still got Ben's, so.
okay.
Oh, Georgia officials say Kirby Smart is the only choice. I don't know. I guess we should do a show, huh?
I suppose if you insist. Yes, y'all. It is DCTF Live, episode 30 for Monday, November 30th, 2015, the last day of November. Isn't that right? 30 days, half September, April, June, and November. Yeah.
I'm not paying attention.
Nailed it. My name is Greg Tepper, managing editor of Dave Campbell's Texas Football and TexasFootball.com. To my right is the director of digital for Dave Campbell's Texas Football and TexasFootball.com. It's Max Thompson, whom
Hello.
I saw. Hello.
Hi.
Okay, yeah, we get it. Whom I saw you again on Saturday.
We see way too much of each other.
We really do. We spend enough time together that I think we're common law married.
We joined forces to annoy the hell out of Matt Stepp for 3 hours. Solid 3 hours.
And anyone else in the AT&T Stadium press box. We went
Yes.
to a game. We'll talk about that in a bit. But I don't know. My weekend was pretty good. My weekend
a good weekend.
Was
It's a
pretty
holiday
solid.
weekend, long weekend.
Yeah, the long weekend aspect of it. My wife wanted to go out.
My wife.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My wife wanted to go out, and we had to buy a fake Christmas tree because we are. Yeah.
You didn't already have one?
No, we had a very small one, but we wanted to. We had either been out of town, for Christmas, or in which we just didn't put up a tree.
Sure.
Or we would get a real one. And this year we are going to St. Louis for Christmas, and so we wanted to get the fake tree. And the real, I don't know if you realize this, but the real hip thing in fake trees now are the pre-lit trees. They come pre-lit.
So by pre-lit, do you mean they have lights and those are ready to go, or they are fiber optic and the little needles glow?
Now, unfortunately, that would be
pretty cool.
Way cooler. Get on that, science. No,
they come with lights.
No, it comes with lights, so it's a tree with a cord, which is kind of weird. I've heard mixed reactions to that as far as people, it'd save you so much time, but then what if the one of the lights burns out, then you're stringing lights on top of pre-lit tree? I don't know. I didn't really like that. So we got the standard, boring
and then did all the work.
We haven't put it up yet.
Oh.
We have not put it up yet.
Just bought it.
We just bought it and did that and went to Hobby Lobby as well. And good Lord. If there is a war on Christmas, whoever's warring with Christmas is losing big time. Because, oh my gosh, it's like Saint Nick threw up in a store. It is just a barrage, and
it starts before Halloween.
Yeah,
now.
it's November 30th. We went on November 29th.
Right.
Can we let it breathe here, folks? And I love Christmas. I love the holiday season, but let's let it breathe. Okay, so we've got a. We've got a fun show today. We're going to be talking a little later with Chris Gilbert, the head coach of Weibo Nation, the Lancaster Tigers, after a big win over Terrell. They move on to the regional finals. We're going to be talking with Clint Buckley about #BeastTexas.
Long overdue.
Long overdue. We will be talking with him about that. A lot of East Texas teams still in the mix, still in the hunt. A lot to talk about with Clint, who we also saw at the AT&T Stadium press box. And then we're going to be joined by the fake Ben Baby.
The fake Ben Baby.
I mean, we can never be sure. So
That's probably true.
I mean, at this point, we have to assume that any Ben Baby we talk to is the fake one.
Yeah.
So, of the San Antonio Express news about San Antonio area high school football. So, fun show, big show. Thanks for being with us. We are here every weekday at noon on TexasFootball.com. You can also subscribe to the podcast on iTunes. Just search DCTF Live. We're going to start with our 3 and outs, kind of our 3 takeaways from the weekend.
3 and out.
We're going to start in the high school ranks, and the biggest headline, I don't think there's really any doubt what the biggest headline is.
No doubt.
Before the playoffs started, we were talking about how a lot of these brackets seemed wide open, that it would only be surprising if a handful of teams lost.
Yes.
Canadian is one of those teams. I think Cedar Park is in that list as well. Those would be surprising losses. The other one in that list is Navasota.
Yeah.
So imagine our surprise.
Imagine the state's surprise.
On Friday night when Carthage takes down Navasota.
Pretty sure they're still partying in Carthage.
Their Navasota's 28-game winning streak is kaput, and it is bookended by losses to Carthage. That's the funny thing. Carthage has just absolutely nobody else has been able to crack that code except Carthage.
Yep.
Thus ends. Let's talk for a minute about Carthage, a squad that has flown so considerably under the radar all year long because they took a couple losses early.
Yeah.
Because everyone's like, okay, well they lost to Kilgore and they lost to who else? They've got 3 losses on the year.
Yeah.
They lost to Hallsville in overtime. That's a 5A over a 4A. And then they lost by 3 to Gilmer. That's turning out to look like a pretty decent loss. And then they lost by 3 to Kilgore. But since then, they have rattled off now 6 straight, including this past week's win over Navasota, 55-48, and just a remarkable win. Navasota gets theirs. Navasota, Shelton Epler throws for 353 yards. Trendavian Dixon has 161 yards and 2 touchdowns, but their careers are over.
Yeah.
At the hands of Carthage. Just a remarkable. They made the defense. I would say did not play great, but it played great when it needed to be great.
Yes.
And they forced turnovers.
Bend but don't break.
Exactly. They forced turnovers, including Navasota was driving for the tie or perhaps the win if they had gone for 2 there in the waning minute, and they fumble on the 5-yard line. Carthage, Johnny on the spot, just falls on it, and
that's it.
And it's over.
That's all she wrote.
There's a couple of things. First of all, I think that this really shakes up that bracket. When you look now at the 4A Division 2 or 4A Division 1 playoff bracket, Carthage, once you beat the man, you are the man, right? And so if you look at that bracket, especially in Region 2, they're going to have a tough test with Silsbee, who escaped on the last play to El Campo. But then they would take on a team like either Waco La Vega, who won 6-0 in overtime.
It's the weirdest score of the weekend,
That
by
really
far. Here's 2 scores. I think most people looking at Liberty Hill, Waco La Vega go, oh, that'll be like 62 to 54.
Mm-hmm. There are. I think that now that Navasota's out, there's not that big bully on the block anymore. And so Navasota's out, so it's going to be a team like if it's from Region 1, Brownwood or Argyle or Abilene Wiley. Here are your 8 left in 4A Division 1, okay? Brownwood, Abilene. Abilene
Wiley, yes.
Argyle, tough. Liberty Ilo, tough.
Very good.
Silsbee, feisty.
Yeah.
Carthage,
giant
killer. Waco La Vega. They just keep winning.
Yeah.
Even the weirdest games, they keep winning. And then China Spring, who I think people would be surprised to realize are this far, but they get a great win over Gatesville. That seems. I think now that Navasota's out, I think it's wide open, and I think there's nobody in the world happier to see Navasota leave than Argyle. Because
I was wondering if you were going to come back around to this, because I wrote in our Friday Night 5 on Friday that, I've seen ILO play; they're good, but it's hard for me to imagine picking anyone as the favorite now other than Argyle.
I think they assumed the throne, but Carthage has got to be in the mix. I think Abilene Wiley.
I think there's lots of teams in the mix.
Brownwood keeps winning,
reasons.
and you talk about pedigree. Brownwood's got it in spades. Maybe Waco La Vega. Why not? Why not?
Yeah.
I think it's wide open, but that was the biggest thing for me on the weekend. Number 2 in our 3 and out here in the high school ranks, Katy and Manville continue their collision course, and now we're here. They've all done their parts, and so we're getting the game we want. Katy and Manville, NRG Stadium. It's going to be great. Katy just mollywops Friendswood 66-0, and Manville kind of returns the favor 75-14 over Houston's Drake Jesuit. It's here. This is the game that everybody wanted in the preseason. They wanted Katy and Manville. They want to see this is supposedly the best Manville team that we've seen. This is the year supposedly that they're going to get past Katy.
It's interesting that you say that, though, because I feel like a lot of the times, and appropriately, we sort of couch our language with high school matchups, teams. These are still kids, and you don't want to be too hard on them. I have seen a lot of tough talk these last few days about Manville. Well, now's the time.
Let's put up or shut up.
Yeah. You've been blown out the last 2 times. If this is the year, it's time to show it.
Go prove it. Here's your shot, Manville.
Man, I just think so much of the rhetoric around this game means it's going to be that much more charged, and it already was going to be.
Mm-hmm. It's going to be huge. It's going to be such a great game. Do not miss it. And of course, you can check out everything that we've got going at texasfootball.com/playoffs, all the brackets, all the things. That's going to be, let's see, prime time, Friday night, 7:30 at Houston's NRG Stadium. Yep. Should be fun. Get your tickets now.
Yeah.
And then third on our 3 and out, the game that we were at on Saturday night. We moseyed on over to AT&T Stadium in Arlington, and we watched Mansfield Lake Ridge take down Mesquite Poteet. We watched them beat them 69-40. And this Lake Ridge team, if you haven't seen them, they're just fun.
That's all there is to it.
They're just a lot of fun.
A boatload of fun to watch.
They've got a quarterback in Jet Duffy who started off, I thought, a little bit shaky.
It was a slow start.
He was overshooting receivers.
Man,
and
when
stuff.
he started zipping it,
he was dropping dimes all over between him.
Beautiful passes
between Duke Carter, their running back. I don't I'm not sure I trust their defense enough to pick them to win a state title. But I'll tell you that I was super duper impressed with the way that they played and that offense. And then you've got their coach in Kirk Thor, who just part of their game plan is,
kick.
and I think that it's kind of, and he would probably never admit to this, I think it's part of that he kind of wants to protect his defense. And that's a way of protecting his defense because he knows that they're going to score quickly.
Yep.
And so if you get the ball back quickly, that's going to give your defense a little more time to rest. Now, if you don't, you give them a short field, and they were probably going to score anyway. But I don't know. The onside kick thing really caught my eye.
I love it.
They're dangerous. They now you want to talk about new school in every way, new school versus old school. Longview and Mansfield Lake Ridge coming up this weekend should be just tons of fun. I'm excited to see who comes out in that one. We've also got some Monday night games going on. A number of them got moved, especially out west. Let's see. Amarillo Tascosa and Denton Ryan are playing today at 3. In 5A, there was one. Come on, computer. Canyon Randall and Burleson Centennial are playing at 4 o'clock in Sweetwater. Canyon and Everman are playing at 4 o'clock in Vernon. A few others here and there. Muleshoe and Shallowater got bumped to today, 6 o'clock. A few others. Check out texasfootball.com/playoffs for all things football in the state of Texas. So, then let's move on to college. Our 3 and outs for college, our 3 thoughts on the college football weekend. We'll kind of zip through these. First of all, we have a division champion in Texas. The Houston Cougars. In a year where I think the state of Texas has been disappointing on the college football front as a whole, holistically. Houston is now your American Athletic Conference West champions with a resounding win over Navy. I mean, they just drubbed them.
Pretty surprising.
It was. I thought it was too. I thought that Navy was going to have an answer defensively, but they just didn't.
And I thought a short time to prepare for that triple option would mean that Houston would have to win a shootout, and they just thumped them.
No, they came out, and the thing is, I think that speaks to, Tom Herman. The ability to get them off the mat and say, let's go.
And Todd Orlando, a great defensive coordinator.
Sure.
A guy, probably the most important hire that Tom Herman made.
The crazy thing about it is that Navy passed for 312 yards. Passed for 312 yards. But, Greg Ward Jr. was fabulous. Let me tell you, we need to have a talk about DeMarcus Ayers. Because DeMarcus Ayers, speaking of Lancaster, DeMarcus Ayers is out of control good right now.
He made some catches, man.
The receiver for Houston was just on another level in this one, and it was a coronation. It felt like a coronation.
Yeah.
And it only makes this is very sad for I don't mean to bring the room down. It only makes you think, what if they just showed up in Storrs, Connecticut?
Oh, I know.
Because then you look at let's be real, friends. They were never getting in the college football playoff. It was never going to happen. Even at 13-0, they were never going to get it. But they could certainly make a lot of people uncomfortable. Now, I will say that they are really primed to get into a New Year's Six Bowl if they are the highest-ranked non-Power 5 team.
Oh, for sure.
I think that they're
in the driver's seat right now. Win one more and you're there.
Yeah, if they beat Temple, they're in the driver's seat. But it makes you think what could have been. Like I said, I don't think they were ever going to crack the top 4.
No.
But they were too far down. They were never going to jump all those teams. But I'll tell you that this is an appropriate coronation for what has been the best team in Texas this year is Houston. So a great win for the Cougs. So Friday night, I was on one of the things we've talked about is how, and we talked about it at length before him, about how it stunk that I was not going to get to watch the TCU Baylor game because I was going to be on the air.
Yeah, unlucky for
Fox
you.
Sports Southwest. Little did I know, I wouldn't miss much. I would miss kind of back and forth touchdowns in the early going, and then pretty much a 45-minute fart sound and then double overtime. Now again, obviously the weather had a lot to do with this. The weather in Fort Worth was just driving rain and ugly and miserable and terrible, and God bless all those fans who stuck it out and managed to power through.
It looked very miserable.
It looked really bad.
Miserable.
It did not look fun at all.
Yeah.
But they go to but neither. I'll tell you what else looked miserable. Both of these teams. They looked terrible. I went back and watched the game after I got off the air, and it was just neither of these teams looked any good.
Well, the conditions made it impossible to play like they play.
Yeah, it did, and they couldn't run the ball when they wanted to run the ball. They couldn't throw. They obviously couldn't throw the ball.
Yeah.
So they go to double overtime, and TCU, scores in the second overtime, and then stops Baylor on a 4th and 1 to win the game. It is Ty Summers, who was just a superstar all game.
Yeah. Huge game.
The San Antonio Reagan X comes through, and TCU takes down Baylor, knocks Baylor out of the college football playoff conversation, which, by the way, I don't mean to rub salt in the wound, Baylor fans, but if you look at how everything else played out this weekend, they would be, if they had won that game, depending on how hard they were for style points, because there was no style points won by anybody in this game. You could conceivably see them at number 5, lurking, waiting for
if the right teams ahead of them lost, they might have an outside shot of sneaking in.
Being on the end, being kind of not on deck, but in the hole. They're coming up to bat.
Sure.
So, but TCU, made that a non-issue. There will be one team from the Big 12 in the college football playoff is Oklahoma. But TCU, a great win. You know that Gary Patterson had that circled for an entire year, and they come out with a win, not your typical win, but a win nonetheless. And both teams, TCU finishes at 10-2.
Right.
Baylor will almost certainly finish at 10-2 because they're playing Texas. And then the other one.
There was another game?
Our third on 3-0.
What?
Oh, Texas A&M. Just who are you? Because the talent is there. There is no debating that the talent is there. And in fact, in short bursts, you see it all come together and you go, oh my gosh, this could be the best team in the country.
Yeah.
But they can never consistently put it together. And I think you need to give a ton of credit to the defense, which did its part in their loss to LSU.
Absolutely.
I think that they were, they started getting gashed a little later just because they got worn down by that LSU front and Leonard Fournette, but that's going to happen.
Yeah.
They were, I thought the defense played admirably. I think that they played about as well as you could hope for them to do. They held them to 19 points. And now, granted, there were 3 missed field goals in there, but, they held them to 19 points. And the offense, once again, with a complete and total no-show. Kyle Allen was erratic. Kyle Allen, that short passing game that they rely so heavily on, that they get the ball out to their receivers and they let them make plays. When you play a sound tackling team like LSU, it just doesn't work. He completed 15 passes and they went for 161 yards. That's not the way they want to play. They want a ton of yards after catch, and they just didn't get any. The running game was pretty much non-existent. I'll tell you, I think the book's out on A&M. I think everyone knows exactly what they're going to do.
Yeah.
And if you have the horses to run defensively, you're going to stop them at this point because they don't have that transcendent quarterback right now.
Yeah.
And, by the way, when they went to a backup quarterback, you know who they went to?
Jake Hubenak.
I think Kyler Murray might be gone.
Maybe.
I think Kyler Murray might just be filling out transfer requests right now because there is obviously something going on there. If they're going to put Jake Hubenak in there in garbage time, or put him in there at all. They needed a spark, and what better spark could you have got than the running ability of Kyler Murray? He's nowhere to be seen.
Sure. Or maybe Kyler waits to fill out those transfer requests so he knows what the offensive coordinator situation is.
Maybe he does, because right now the A&M offense is just in shambles, and which is something we never thought we'd be saying. with Kevin
There's a
Sumlin.
lot of talent there.
Tons of talent, unreal talent.
Yeah.
They just haven't been able to put it together consistently.
Yeah.
So A&M finishes at 8-4. They await their bowl berth destiny, which maybe Texas Tech in the Texas
I would
Bowl.
love it. It would be so awesome.
Super great. You're watching DCTF Live. You can see us every weekday at noon on TexasFootball.com. We're here talking high school and college football all across the Lone Star State. Earlier today, we had the outstanding opportunity to catch up with Chris Gilbert, the head coach of the Lancaster Tigers. So he has an athletic period during the show, but he said, I'd love to be on the show. Is there any way we could record something? So we did. So we caught up with Chris Gilbert, the head coach of the Lancaster Tigers, and he had a lot of fun stuff to say. So here's our interview with Coach Chris Gilbert. We are joined on the phone line now by the head coach of the Lancaster Tigers. It is Coach Chris Gilbert. Coach, congratulations on your big win this past week. I imagine times are good down there in Lancaster.
Hey, Tep, appreciate you having me. Yeah, it's pretty fun right now. You know, it's good to still be alive.
Yeah, exactly. And with a lot of things stacked against you, particularly the weather on Friday night in your game against Terrell was not cooperating. I imagine you're pretty proud of the way your kids pushed through what were pretty inclement conditions.
Yeah, it's been pretty tough on us the past two games. The previous week in the area around, we had some wind and a little bit of rain in Tyler, and then we come back this past Friday night with just, very cold and rainy the entire time, not really letting up. And the kids just, they were real mentally tough and handled it well. So we're proud of them.
They certainly look good, and I, of course, many people know, but perhaps some people don't, that Terrell was your old school. You coached there in 09 and 10. Going up against that old your old program, a program that itself has made great strides in the past couple of years. What was that like on Friday night, going up against a program you know so well?
It was strange, and it was cool at the same time. I've known a lot of those kids, since they were in junior high, and then some of the town folk, and saw a lot of the old Booster Club members, and it was just a good time. It was a nice reunion, and it was someone has to win, someone has to lose, but it was a great evening and seeing some old friends.
We're talking with Chris Gilbert, the head coach of the Lancaster Tigers, here on DCTF Live. Get involved with the conversation at #DCTF Live. Coach, last time you guys went this far, we saw you at a state title game. When you look at this team, maybe compared to that team that made the run to the title game, what kind of similarities do you see?
I think the first thing that jumps out is that they have a tremendous will. They have the senior leadership that just kind of permeates that through the team. We're proud of just that in itself. And not only are they talented, but they're hard-nosed. And we like to think around here that, you're going to have to beat us. And then that's the mentality that the 2012 team had, and this team has the same mentality. And they're hard-working boys. A lot of people always talks about the talent that we have, and that's true. But we really take that in just with a grain of salt because we want to be known as a hard-working team. So that's kind of the MO of this group, and we're proud of them for maintaining that.
I want to take you back to maybe a less fun time, your last loss back in October when you guys dropped 13-0 to Lancaster. Just a real, I don't mind saying it to your face, a bad game for your squad, 61 total yards offense. You give a lot of credit to Summit in that game, but what did you tell your team after that game that has sparked them on to what's been 5 straight wins?
Greg, that was a horrible game.
I was trying to be nice, Coach.
I mean, we just, for lack of a better term, we just did not show up. I mean, we did not play well. We were kind of just sleepwalking out there. And after that game, it was just one of those times that we just had an opportunity to refocus. And we came back to work, and the guys began to work like they did at the beginning of the year. And since that point, we've really practiced and prepared with a chip on our shoulder that was an embarrassment for us, and we really expected to play better than that. We knew Summit was good, and they did a good job on us, but 61 yards is terrible. But we made a bounce back, and we hadn't lost since. So we're proud for overcoming that, and that's what football is about. Just overcoming stuff, and so we're happy that we have been better since then.
There's so many different playmakers on your squad we could talk about, be it on the defensive side or the offensive side, but the guy who stands out, I think, to most of us is your quarterback, Ryan Ross. What a remarkable year he's had. What does he bring to your squad? How important is he to your offense?
Well, he brings this, a calm leadership. We have so many guys that are so excitable, and he's just very calm. And he's a smart player. He understands coverages. He understands our offense. He understands what people are going to try to do to him. And so he's been dynamic in the fact that he's allowed us to play a little different than we have in the past. We've been a read option based offense with a running quarterback first and passing second, and now we've kind of changed. We've been trying to become more balanced, and he's able to get these great playmakers that we have on the perimeter of the ball. Where in the past, we've had a read option quarterback who probably couldn't get it off to all of the talent that we had available. But with this quarterback, he's able to spread it around, and that's why you see so many different people contributing week after week because he really takes what the defense gives him.
When you look back at that team that made a state title run a couple of years ago, the thing that stood out for me was always your defense. And it seems like this defense is kind of cut from that same cloth.
There's no doubt, Greg. I mean, these guys, they're the strength of our team. And we love what they bring to the table. They really are the cornerstone of the mentality of the team. You take a good defense to a ball game, and weather or whatever's going on, and you really have a chance to win, and you're normally in the game. Even the game that you mentioned with Summit, we had a chance all the way to the end of the game to win the game as bad as the offense was playing because the defense was playing so well. And so the defense has been definitely a strength, especially up the middle and stopping the run. And that's what we've really focused on, and I think we've been fortunate this year, and they've played well.
We're talking with Chris Gilbert, the head coach of the Lancaster Tigers, here on DCTF Live. Get involved in the conversation, #DCTF Live. Coach, I know you got the athletic period coming up real quick, so we'll let you go after this. Ever since Saturday when Frisco Lone Star beat Marshall, I know you've been buried in their film. I know you've been charting the X's and O's and figuring out where you're going to attack. Not going to ask you to give away your game plan, but when you look at this Frisco Lone Star team from the coaching perspective, what do you see?
I see us. I look across there, and I was watching them against Marshall, and actually, my wife asked me. She said, "What do you think about them?" I said, they look like us. I mean, they're very talented. They're talented at all the skills. They play great technique in the interior. They're strong on both the offense and defensive lines. And the QB is oh my goodness, he's special. He's special. He's probably one of the top 5 quarterbacks in the DFW area. He's a true dual threat, and we'll have our hands full. I think that they will be the best team that we've seen in several weeks. And but like I told my guys, I said, who do you expect to play the 4th round of playoffs? You should expect to play someone of that caliber, and so they are definitely a very good football team.
It's going down 5:30 p.m. Friday at Arlington's AT&T Stadium. Frisco Lone Star will take on those Lancaster Tigers, and the head coach of those Lancaster Tigers is the great Chris Gilbert. Coach, thanks for hopping on with us.
I appreciate it, Tep. Thanks for having me.
And thanks once again to the head honcho of Weibo Nation, Lancaster head coach Chris Gilbert, for joining us on DCTF Live. I'm excited to see what they do, man. I think that
I like them. I like them a lot.
I know you've liked them from the jump. They've been really fun to watch, and that win over Terrell, I think people need to realize that's a really good Terrell team that they just took down, and it was
for sure.
It was really impressive. And Ryan Ross, the transfer from Campbell, has been so integral to what they're doing, and their defense is playing well. So, pretty remarkable stuff. Let me get a little bit of business out of the way.
All right, that's fine.
Hey, Texas high school football fans, when you make your plans for the state championships the state championship games down in Houston. Book with Houston Hyatt Regency. This is going great. Houston Hyatt Regency, which is offering hotel rooms to fans for a discounted rate of $129 per night, and participating teams for $119 per night. Expect to be pampered at the finest contemporary hotel in downtown Houston as you get ready to dominate at NRG Stadium. Call 1-888-421-1442 when you're ready to book, and we will see you December 17th through 20th in Houston, just 3 weeks away.
It's crazy.
We are halfway through the playoffs.
It's crazy.
We are now 3 weeks from the state championship games at NRG Stadium in Houston. So come on down. It's going to be a lot of fun. We're looking, hopefully, to broadcast DCTF live from there. We'll keep you posted on whatever we hear from the powers that be. But it was a big weekend this week, for East Texas. And every year there's a couple of squads from East Texas that always make a run. Your Gilmers, they're still in it. Wascom has become a perennial power of late. Longview is in it. But this year it seems like the depth in East Texas is pretty remarkable. And who would know that better than Clint Buckley of ETSN? That's East Texas Sports Network for those who don't know, joining us on the phone line now. Clint, I appreciate you hopping on. You are an East Texas guru. You know it inside and out. Is this a standard year for East Texas, or is it, like I think, a rather remarkable one?
I would think the latter. I mean, it's pretty remarkable. At the beginning of the year, I thought that this could be a down year for East Texas. The teams that got to the state championship game last year, Gilmer, Wascom, they were losing a ton of kids. Mineola, I thought, had a chance to get back, and they're still rolling along. But I was a little concerned that I might not be able to make a trip to Houston and come late December. But I tell you what, they've pleasantly surprised me these last couple of weeks in the playoffs, and it was a big week for sure last week.
They've looked excellent, and of course the headliner there is Carthage, that win over Navasota. I know from a statewide level there's a lot of surprise, a lot of shock and awe about Carthage knocking out Navasota, but from your perspective, as somebody who's seen them, as somebody who's watched them, were you surprised that they knocked off Navasota?
A little bit, but having seen them the first week in the playoffs against Bridge City, I knew that they had the capability of beating a team the caliber of Navasota. I just didn't know, if it would happen. Navasota is awfully good, as we all know. But the key for them has been reestablishing the running game. For most of the year, they've relied on the passing game with their quarterback, Jared Blissett. And when they've been at their best under head coach Scott Surratt, they've been able to really mix in the running game and really kind of put that pro-style offense to work with a good balance. And the last 2 weeks, they have a sophomore running back named Keontae Ingram who has really stepped up for them. I believe he has 365 rushing yards the last 2 weeks, and then those were against two undefeated teams in Stafford and Navasota. So now that they have the running game figured out, this is a very scary offense. And, if they can beat Navasota, they can beat anybody that's left in the field, that's for sure.
We were talking about that, about how with Navasota out, it seems like there's not that big bully on the block anymore. Would you say that Carthage has to be considered, if not the favorite, a favorite to come away with the 4A D1 title now?
I think you have to say that right now. I mean, I think you've got to also look at Liberty Ilo and Argyle up in Region 2. Those two teams are playing awfully well right now, and they're going to be meeting each other this week. Actually, that ought to be a great game. It was a fantastic game last year. But Carthage, if they can beat Navasota, obviously they can beat anybody that's left in 4A Division I. And they're a really complete football team right now. I know they gave up 48 points to Navasota, but that really didn't tell the story of how well their defense played. They forced a couple of big turnovers late in that game. They intercepted Shelton Upward twice. He had come into the game with just one interception on the year, I think, to 53 touchdown passes. So their defense is playing at a really high level right now. And as I mentioned before, with that added dimension in the backfield with Keontae Ingram, this is a very dangerous-looking Carthage team with with their eyes set on another state championship.
He is Clint Buckley, the managing editor of ETSN, the East Texas Sports Network, joining us on DCTF Live. Get involved with the conversation, hashtag DCTF Live. Clint, the other squad that came away with a big win this weekend, and I thought a rather emphatic one, even if the scoreline doesn't indicate it, was Longview. They go to AT&T Stadium, and they really, from the word go, take it to Wiley. We know this is a Longview team with pedigree, but this is starting to look like those vintage Longview teams.
Yeah, and this is one of those teams that I didn't really expect a whole lot from once the playoffs started. It was a solid regular season. I mean, they were 8-2, but they had lost the district game, and that rarely happens under head coach John King. They lost to Marshall. But I'm telling you what, this is a very fun team to watch, at least from my perspective. I mean, they're not a flashy team. They're not going to, hang 50 points on anybody, but they control the clock. They run the football. They're very diversified in how they run the football. They've got several different backs that offer varying styles of running. They've got the big bruisers. They've got the slashers. And their defense, while undersized and maybe not as talented as some of the defenses they've had in the past, they're playing awfully well right now. And they hold Wiley to just 14 points last week, and their passing game, which had been a really strong point for them for most of the year, really struggled. I think they only completed 6 of 26 passes. And it's been their pass rush that's really been the difference maker for that defense, and they've been getting it from just a 3-man rush. They haven't really had to bring any extra rushers, and when you can get good pressure on the quarterback with just 3 guys, that frees your the rest of your defenders up to play coverage, and that's really what's helped them in the playoffs.
One of the squads that, for all the success that East Texas had this weekend in the regional semifinals, one of the squads that bowed out was Marshall. Frisco Lone Star really took it to the Mavericks in this one. When you look back, when the season ends and you look back at this Marshall team, what is going to stand out to you about them?
Despite the way the season ended, I think they've kind of reemerged as an East Texas power. Third-year coach Clint Harper, who is a Marshall alum, he was a former quarterback at Marshall back, I guess, in the glory days of the 90s. He has really returned that program to prominence in this area. And, I mentioned they beat Longview this season. That was the first time they had done that. Their biggest rival since 2000. They were able to claim a piece of the district championship, and it was really tough to see the way their season ended against Lone Star. 56-7 was the final. Things may have been different if they had their starting quarterback Justin Hart, who had been starting for them since he was a freshman. He got hurt. He hurt his knee midway through the district season, and they did a really good job to rally after the injury. But without him at quarterback, they had to use their star running back Cameron Haller in that position. And while he's a tremendous athlete, not having a quarterback as seasoned as Hart really took away the full capabilities of their offense. They weren't as aggressive downfield passing the ball as they had been for most of the season. But Marshall's in great shape. They got a lot of young players that are coming back. Haller, who I just mentioned, is only a junior. He rushed for almost 2,000 yards this year. So things are looking up for Marshall despite the way their season ended the other day.
It's Clint Buckley of ETSN.FM. Check out his fine work there and follow him on Twitter at Clint Buckley. One last question for you, Clint, before we let you go. 2 of the East Texas squads that took home state championships last year are still alive, despite, as you mentioned, having to do some reloading. Who have you been more impressed with between Gilmer and Wascom?
That's really tough. If I had to choose, I would say Wascom, simply because they're a smaller school, and when turnover hits with graduation, it's always tougher on the smaller schools because there's obviously a lot less players to choose from. But they have been just about as dominant as they were a season ago. They haven't lost in 28 games. They took out a one district opponent last week in a rematch, ARP, and they've got another one this week with West Rusk. Both of those teams they handled quite well during the regular season, and I expect Wascom to keep on rolling. Gilmer had a kind of a scare in the first round. They turned the ball over, I think, 7 times and were able to survive that. But since then, they've played really well, and they've got a rematch with Atlanta this week, which I think that they're in position to win and advance on, and then we'll see from there. But I think Wascom, I think this may be the most impressive job of coaching anywhere in the region with what Whitney Keeling has done with those guys this season.
He is Clint Buckley. He is the managing editor of ETSN, East Texas Sports Network. See his fine work at etsn.fm and follow him on Twitter at Clint Buckley. Clint, appreciate you hopping on with us, bud.
All right, anytime, Greg. You take it easy.
There he goes, Clint Buckley of ETSN, talking all things #Beast Texas. And yeah, he said that he wasn't necessarily surprised that Carthage knocked off Navasota. We had spotlight. We had that game in our crosshairs last week as kind of, okay, this could be a little trip up point, and sure enough, it was. Right. I think Longview's game this week against Mansfield Lake Ridge is going to be fascinating.
Fascinating, for sure. For sure.
Gilmer kind of keeps on rolling kind of quietly. They'll have a great East Texas clash this week with Atlanta, a team with just speed out the wazoo.
Right.
And then if they get past that, they would take on the winner of Crum and Salina. And normally you'd say, oh, well, Salina's going to win that. But with what Crum just did to Sweetwater, I think they hung their first shutout on them in a decade. At this point, it's hard to doubt Gary Robinson's crew at Crum. So you're going to have Crum or Salina taking on either Gilmer or Atlanta, probably Gilmer in my opinion. And that's going to be a fascinating semifinal. Then on the other side of that bracket, you've got West Orange Stark probably lurking, unless a team like Cuero, Sinton, or Belleville can knock them off.
Correct.
Right now, East Texas is looking strong. It looks like if they can get past Salina, it's probably for them. And then for Wascom, they will, let's see, let me find them. They've got West Rusk this week. A great defense. That'll be a tough matchup for them at Longview's Lovo Stadium. Then they're going to take on a team probably Idalou out of Region 1.
Yeah.
Hard-nosed. And then they'll get... depending on who you like out of Crockett, Franklin, East Bernard, and Bowling, I probably would lean towards East Bernard or Franklin. But, I think those two teams have great shots at repeating out of East Texas. So, should be fun to see how those wrap up. You're watching DCTF Live. We're here every weekday at noon on TexasFootball.com/live. We cover high school and college football all across the state. And, of course, you can subscribe to us on the podcast on iTunes. Just search DCTF Live on iTunes. We're going to be joined here in a minute by Ben Baby of the San Antonio Express News. I want to get another little bit of business out of the way. The Subway Super Team, we've teamed up with Subway at Dave Campbell's Texas Football to put together kind of a high school all-star team all across all classifications, and it's all determined by your votes. So go on to TexasFootball.com/Subway Super Team. You can check out who is nominated, and if they are not nominated, you can write them in. The players with the most votes will be on the Subway Super Team. They'll be honored with one of the more prestigious honors in the state. So TexasFootball.com/Subway Super Team. You can vote once per day until 2016. So for the rest of the year, you've got like a whole month to do it. So that's like 31 ballots you can cast. So get on it. TexasFootball.com/Subway Super Team. Ben Baby's not answering his phone. Oh no, Ben. Are you sure you're not calling the fake Ben Baby?
I have no idea which Ben Baby I'm calling.
Yeah,
that's the problem.
How could anybody possibly know?
It's impossible to know.
It will be, it is.
How can I be sure you booked with the correct Ben Baby? Maybe I'm calling the real Ben Baby, but you booked with the fake Ben Baby.
Wow, oh my gosh, you're exactly right. I've made a terrible mistake. While we effort to get him on, we're going to talk a lot about District 25-6A, which, by the way, all 4 teams are still alive, and all 4 teams are in. Oh, hold on. Ben just sent me a DM. I'll send you another phone. Okay. So we are, we're going to talk a lot about 25-6A, which has swept all the way into the regional finals. It's going to be rematches of Converse Judson and Smithson Valley, and then Cibolo Steel and Schertz Clemens. Should be a lot of fun. I've been very impressed with the way Schertz Clemens has been playing offense. They've been really fun to watch. Let me see 1 second. Oh, it looks like we're really approaching getting him on the phone, which should be a lot of fun. We'll see if it is the real Ben Baby, but who could possibly know that? So we are so glad to be joined now on the phone line by the esteemed sports writer for the San Antonio Express News. It is the real...
Could be... Is it?
Or we
it
think...
might be the fake.
The real Ben Baby. Ben, hi.
How are you doing, Greg? How are y'all doing? Y'all doing all right?
We're doing fine. How are things down in Region 4?
It's good. We've got a couple big games going on down here in Class 6A, so it's I'd say things are going pretty well down here.
Of course, you're speaking particularly about 25 6A, which has swept its way into the regional final. All 4 teams are in Division 1. It is Converse Judson taking on Smithson Valley, and then Cibolo Steel taking on Schertz Clemens. Rematches abound. Are you prepared to pull a Craig Way and just declare unequivocally that 25 6A, just hop on board and declare it's the best district in the state?
It's so hard to say. If that's the best district in the state by far, we know it's the best district in the region. I mean, that's not a question at this point. But at the Class 6A level, it's an interesting deal when you look at it. We wrote about it last week in the Express News. And I've always thought Region 4 is a little top-heavy compared to the other regions in 6A in the state. I think the top of the Region 4 can compete with some of the best teams in Texas without a doubt, but it's not as deep across the board, and you might be seeing that. That may be one of the reasons why 25 6A has done so well in the playoffs. But with that being said, I mean, it's definitely in the conversation for being one of the best districts in Texas when you look at the teams and the quality that they've shown in the postseason these last few weeks.
It's certainly been impressive. We'll start kind of backwards when we start with Division 2, the rematch there between Schertz Clemens and Cibolo Steel. With Schertz Clemens, you would think that because Steel kind of ran away from them in the first one, their first matchup, I think it would be pretty popular to say, oh, well, Steel's going to be the favorite here. But there's a lot of mitigating circumstances, not only to that game, but also to this game. A lot of injuries now potentially surrounding Steel. I'm not sure if Clemens had Frank Harris in that game. When you look at this Steel-Clemens matchup in a rematch, who has the advantage there?
Well, like you said, I think it might depend on all the mitigating factors, and we'll see what happens as the week progresses. Last week against Del Rio, Steel junior quarterback Xavier Martin, who's committed to Texas Tech, he got knocked out of the game on the first snap of Steel's game there. He got knocked out with an ankle injury, couldn't put any weight on it. It's been a couple of days, haven't heard any updates yet, and as you might expect, I mean, it might be difficult trying to get updates from coaches this time of year when it comes to stuff like that. And then with running back Bryson Finley, a senior, who's also committed to Texas Tech, he looks like he picked up a knee injury late in the fourth quarter of that game against Del Rio. So Steel could be without its starting quarterback and starting running back against Clemens. And like you said, Clemens was without Frank Harris for the most part of the first game between the two teams. Harris got knocked out of the game after he was hit by A&M commit Mark Jackson. So, last game wasn't really indicative of how things might have shook out. Excuse me.
No, it's fine.
If Harris wasn't there. And but we'll see. If Martin and Devlin aren't available for Steel, I mean, that game could be a toss-up.
It really could, especially the way that Clemens is going right now. We're talking with Ben Baby, the San Antonio Express News. Follow him on Twitter at Ben_Baby. And then on the other side, the D1 game, I think, is really fascinating. You've got a Converse Judson team that seems to be hitting its stride right now, getting a rematch against a Smithson Valley team that gave Judson everything it wanted and more in their first matchup. I look at this, and I want to dive into the numbers a little bit more as the week goes on, but I look at this Judson game with Smithson Valley as pretty much a coin flip. I'm curious to see if you agree.
I definitely agree, and I think that's kind of been the thought around that game. If they were to meet in this round of the playoffs, that it would be a toss-up given the way both teams have been playing. Judson's been good, but I think they looked their best last week against Laredo United. And Laredo United isn't necessarily a bad team at all, but Judson really kind of ran away with that one. And then on the other hand, Smithson Valley had a really quality win against Harlingen. And people forget that Harlingen, there's a lot of flack that Valley teams usually get, especially, around here in San Antonio. But Harlingen gave Reagan a really good game earlier in the year, and now we know that, that Harlingen was the real deal this year. So I think that Smithson Valley win looks really good going into this week. And with the way both of those teams are playing right now, I mean, that game could go in any direction. And, the other X factor is, the coaching staff at Smithson Valley led by Larry Hill. He's done a tremendous job with those kids this year and really getting the most out of them. And then, Judson's got so many athletes, and Sean McAuliffe, their coach, has really settled in his second year with the program. So I think that game, you really don't know how that's going to play out. But it'll be interesting to see, if Smithson Valley's defense can slow down. Their defense is really good in the secondary. Well, Judson doesn't really throw the ball a whole lot, so Judson may have the advantage in that aspect. But we'll see how it plays out at Alamo Stadium this Saturday.
And the biggest problem there is that the Judson-Smithson Valley game is at 1 at Alamo Stadium, and the Steele-Clemens game is at 4 at the Alamo Dome. So, Ben, where are you going to be?
I will indeed be in the Alamo Dome, not just because it's inside, but I think Steele Clemens is going to be, they're both going to be fantastic games. People aren't going to pick, if you pick either game to go to, you're not going to pick a bad one. But I've been following Steele this whole postseason, and I've thought from the get-go that they've been a contender to win the 6A Division II title. And so now, but if they don't have Martin and Denley going forward, that may change things. And Steele, when you go ahead and if you look down the line, they may match up better against the likes of Katy, who they'll most likely face in the state semifinals, because I don't think Manuel's going to beat them this year. And that's that's how I think on that game there. But Steele's defensive speed is so great, and it's been so dominant throughout the whole postseason that you wonder if that's not a better matchup for Katy than Clemens. So it'll be interesting to see what happens if Clemens goes on, or what might be better for the region or here and there. But there's going to be about 10,000 people that'll show up at least for that Steele Clemens game. So I'm excited to see that one.
We're talking with Ben Baby, the San Antonio Express News here on DCTF Live. Get involved in the conversation, hashtag DCTF Live. Ben, besides 25-6A, it hasn't been a really remarkable year for in the playoffs for teams in the San Antonio area. Are there any other games maybe in the smaller school level that you've got your eye on in your coverage area?
Right now, Cuero is kind of on the fringe of our coverage area. It's probably a school that we covered, a while ago, back when circulations were much bigger and the newspaper industry was in a better shape there. But I was really impressed with what they did against Navarro, because Navarro was a quality team in the 4A Division II bracket. And Cuero had kind of struggled throughout the season, but, give a lot of credit to that team. And of course, the Gobblers winning on Thanksgiving week, shouldn't really be a shock to anybody there. If there's any team that would have some little mojo going on that holiday week, it'd be Cuero. But they did a tremendous job of slowing down Navarro's offense and really putting up points against a quality defense. They were probably our best shot at winning or playing for a state title, beneath the 6A level. So for them to do what they did was pretty impressive. And then, Bremont beating Fall City in 2A Division II, and East Bernard beating Blanco in 3A Division II really weren't surprises there. East Bernard and Bremont, respectively, have great teams this year. So, it's just the way that things shake out, especially down here in Region 4. The lower classifications tend to be a little stronger when it gets to this part, when it comes to this part of the playoffs.
He is Ben Baby. He waves the flag for Region 4 for the San Antonio Express News, and you can see his flag waving on Twitter at Ben_Baby. Ben, I hope you have a great week, pal.
Hey, thank you. Thank you all for having me.
There he goes, Ben Baby, San Antonio Express News. It's weird because if you look, there's not really – it's those four teams from 25-6A, which those four teams are great. And, in fact, you could make an argument, maybe with the exception of Schertz Clements, those are the banner carriers for San Antonio area high school football.
No question.
Steele, Judson, Smithson Valley. These are teams with pedigree.
Yeah, no question.
But past that, it's been a bit of a downish year. Besides that, 5A, they don't have anybody left. 4A, they don't have anybody. Or 5A, rather. 4A, they've got Cuero, who's kind of on the outside. But that win, I'm glad he mentioned that win over Navarro. That really was impressive. Now they'll take on Senton at the Alamo Dome Saturday night. But
another big game.
Yeah. Big games all over the state. And you can find
That's all we got left.
all the schedule at texasfootball.com/playoffs. You know what I'm really excited about?
No,
is
tell
that
me.
nobody can yell at me this week about not picking their game in fixing to pick them because we're just going to pick all of them.
Okay.
We're now at the point where there are so few games left.
How many are there total?
Let's see. There's 4 in each. There's 4 in each of the brackets.
So
11-man brackets. So that's 40.
40.
Plus another 4 6-man games.
Still be a very loaded fixing to pick 'em.
44. Maybe just an extra long lightning round.
Yeah.
It'd be
I
fun,
hope you
man.
got enough oxygen.
You'll have to find out on Thursday. That's when we will release Fixin' to
Yeah,
Pick 'em.
we've got all these people on our YouTube channel right now asking us who are going to win all these games. You got to wait till the Pick'em video
Wait till
comes out.
Pick'em
We
video,
can't make
guys.
predictions
Guys.
yet. We got to crunch the
Listen,
numbers for a
baby.
couple days.
Listen, baby, I ain't giving it away for free. Come on. I ain't giving it away for free. It's going to do it for DCTF Live for today. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you to Chris Gilbert, the head coach of Weibo Nation, Lancaster Tigers, for hopping on with us. Thank you to Clint Buckley of ETSN.FM for hopping on with us. Follow him on Twitter at Clint Buckley. Oh, also follow Coach Gilbert on Twitter at Weibo Football 1. That's WEBO Football 1. Great follow there. And then follow, and then of course Ben Baby, the San Antonio Express News. Follow him on Twitter at Ben_Baby. Follow us on Twitter at DCTF. Like us on Facebook, Facebook.com/Dave Campbell's. Follow us on Instagram, Instagram.com/Dave Campbell's. And of course, see us at TexasFootball.com. Vince Young, please come get your Player of the Year trophy, and we will see you tomorrow on DCTF Live.